Okay, this is too funny. So, as you guys might have heard, I didn't talk about it, but this one of the catalysts for the stock market rally on Monday was that there was news from Moderna, which is a pharmaceutical company, that their vaccine trials are going well. And so, based on that, the stock market says, "Oh well, we found a vaccine because some trials went well." And so that means everyone, everything's back to normal. We're fine. The economy's great. And so we get um, over what was it, like 1,000 Dow points, and I forget how much on the S&P. Well, actually, that was at the height of the day. I think we closed like 90 points up for the S&P. And of course, but this is what the mainstream media was focusing on, as the catalyst for the rally. I think that what Powell said was much more important, but nevertheless, um, the market never will always use any good news that they can find as an excuse when it wants to go up anyway. And so this, Moderna was a big performer for the day. I didn't look exactly at how much they were up, but definitely up, up more than the overall market. And it actually turns out that the White House vaccine czar, the guy who's in charge of this, this new Manhattan project to find a vaccine, he actually was a board member of Moderna up until the point at which he took over this project as the White House's guy on the issue of finding the vaccine. He came straight from Moderna to this place, and apparently he didn't want to divest any of his assets, even though it was a pretty big conflict of interest. If you own a bunch of Moderna stock or options in this case, in this company which is trying to develop a vaccine, you would have insider information that this whole thing is going to either do well or not do well when it comes to the vaccine. And so when this news came out and sent their stock to the moon, this guy sold all of his options for a very nice profit, I'm sure. Apparently, he sold something like 10 to 12 in something 10 to 12 million dollar range of options. And legally speaking, there's nothing that can be done about this. Even if there was, I wouldn't advocate for that. I don't believe in insider trading laws. I just think that people should understand the incentives of these folks in positions of power and how they use their positions. Because this guy can very easily say that, no, I wasn't. This wasn't a case of insider trading. Because yeah, sure, I own these options in this company that I was directly dealing with through my role as a selfless public official trying to serve Americans and develop this vaccine. Sure, I had a financial stake in this one company in particular, doing well with their vaccine. But I didn't use any sort of insider information I had to trade, in those assets. Because I sold my options after everyone else got the news that things were going well. And so that's just a smart trade on my end. That's not insider trading. That's the same trade that anybody could have made who already owned these options. I didn't go out and buy and front run the Moderna stock or anything like that. So you can't accuse me of that. All I did was I already had these options from back when I worked there, and I sold when everybody else, drove the price up. So even though he has that plausible deniability, it's very possible also that he was using his insider information and his position as the czar of the vaccine to inform this trade. Because when you look at this good news that came out that sent their stock to the moon yesterday, the news doesn't actually look that good to me. This is a preliminary result from a trial that involved about 8 people. So we're very far from the stage of doing, massive double-blind tests. Now, that doesn't mean that this vaccine candidate is totally ineffective or anything like that. We have no idea right now. But that's the thing, is we don't have much more information today than we did a couple days ago. But that sends things to the moon. At least publicly we don't have a lot of information. Now, this guy, as the czar, is probably privy to some information that's not public yet. So he can claim that he traded based on what was publicly available information, but there might be some more information that only he has that further informed his decision to sell these options. For example, if he thought that if he had some information that this vaccine was actually going to do really well, and that he had more data than just these preliminary results to work with, And he knew, and his buddies at Moderna, who again he sat on their board, were telling him, hey man, this is really going great, this is going to work, we've got it, it's a sure thing. He would probably hold on to those options and wait for them to go higher. But let's say on the other hand, his buddies at Moderna are saying, yeah, we're trying this, but we're not too sure about it. It probably won't come to fruition, but we're trying anyway because we're looking for a vaccine. Then he would have a little more incentive to say, well, there's a big spike right now in the price because of this good news, but it doesn't look like there's going to be much good news in the future. I'm selling out. And people in Washington do this all the time. That's what everyone does. That's why you have people who go to Washington who are not even millionaires and come out being worth, like $10 to $50 million. Because you get all this kind of information all the time. And, you can go pretty far without it actually being considered insider trading. People in Washington, elected officials or not, benefit all the time from insider information that they get as a result of, being in government. Of course, the most notable example now are a couple of senators. One, Richard Burr. One was another woman. I can't remember where she's from, but maybe California? It doesn't sound right. But anyway, there was a female senator who was a new senator. That's why I don't know her name. And then Richard Burr, who sold after a meeting having to do with all of this Wu-flu stuff back when most people were not worried about it. But they apparently got some kind of a briefing on it. I think they're Burr was on the Intelligence Committee. I think he was the chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee. And, he sold a bunch of stock or whatever. I think it might have even been in specific companies that, were not going to fare well. I don't remember the exact details. And now he's under, some scrutiny. But, the reason why he did that was not because he's dumb. Richard Burr is not an idiot. It's because people in Washington do this all the time. And it's just the fact that this is blown up into such a big situation that, he's been under a little extra scrutiny. But normally, there are small trades all the time. It's just like when, who was it? I think it might have been Denny Hastert, who was the old Speaker of the House during, I think, the Bush years. I think after Newt Gingrich, Denny Hastert became the Speaker of the House. He also was a high school wrestling coach that was paying off all the little boys that he used to touch. That guy, that just came out a couple years ago. Well, anyway, he was also a big millionaire. And he made all of his money in real estate, despite being, a high school wrestling coach who got elected to Congress. How does he become a millionaire real estate investor? Well, he was smart enough to buy a property that just happened to be in the way of, the future interstate. Just dumb luck, I'm sure. It had nothing to do with him being, in Congress, the body that, created the interstate. And was, putting it through the country, that he thought, I should buy up some land and then run the interstate through my land so that I could make a bunch of money. And so these things happen all the time. Pelosi's probably another great example. I don't know about her exact history, but I know she's worth a lot more money now than when she got elected. So all in all, I don't know if there's much information that we can glean from this guy selling his options. Of course, you have to sell options eventually, or else they just expire worthless. You can't, hang on to options unless you intend on, either selling them to somebody else or actually, using them, exercising those options to either, buy or sell stock at a given price. So again, it's entirely possible that that there's nothing sinister going on here, but, it's impossible not to think that it wouldn't be. The temptation. The guy would have to be an idiot not to use the information that he has as this vaccine czar to, make investment decisions. It would just be irresponsible. And again, I don't want these folks thrown in prison for insider trading because they do it anyway, whether it's illegal or not. It shouldn't be illegal. But what should happen is that these people, should be seen as the grifters that they are. That these are folks who have, very who stand a lot to gain from their positions in government, and the public should be able to acknowledge that. By making it illegal, supposedly, it gives all these people a veneer of, I guess, credibility and selflessness that they don't deserve. We need to be very clear in stating that, our elected officials engage in insider trading. They, have a way a bigger advantage over the rest of us when it comes to trying to invest. So with that said, if you get anything of value out of this video, I'd appreciate you clicking that like button and sharing this video. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe, because I do upload every day and I'd hate to have you miss one. So I'll see you folks back here tomorrow.